All right, welcome back to the Flourish Podcast. My name is Devin Avalon.
And my name is Michelle Holmes. And today, our episode is all about crafting a minimalist mindset at work and home.
Okay.
So, when we think of minimalism, typically one of the first thoughts in our head is how many things we might have, how many possessions, how much clutter. But today, I think it's going to be a fun discussion because we're not only going to talk about the physical possessions, but also the scheduling, the commitments, the activities, because what I've noticed, and Devin, I'm sure you've seen this as well,
Yes.
is that people in general now have a lot of clutter, both physically and mentally in their spaces and in their minds. We are overscheduled. We are doing a lot. If we have kids, the kids have ballet and soccer and play practice, all these arts and fine arts and fun hobbies and things, but we are running around. We're unable to say no to either the things that come to us, but also the experiences or the opportunities that we have as well. So I think it's really important for us to be intentional. We love intentionality on this podcast, but to
Yes.
be intentional in crafting a mindset that's really supportive to us being able to be present, being able to prioritize effectively, limit distractions, limit some of the stressors in our lives and the things that are taking up space that we could live without.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? It's tough for us to do that because I think society is always constantly telling us that we need more. We need more stuff. There's this whole consumerism, this mindset that we have to have more in order to be happy, and that not only having more, but we also have to be doing more. We've got all these images about all these things, these people going on trips and different hobbies and things, and we feel like we don't have we're not fulfilled in our lives if we don't have all of these things that are constantly going around. And I think back, growing up, one of the things we would do in the summertime, you're in school, no school, we would just sit on the sofa all day and do nothing. And I think there's this idea there, you should be doing something a little bit more productive than that, watching television and reruns. But I think that there's an idea that you always have to be doing something. And the whole culture that we have our smartphones we're constantly connected, and it's always it becomes rarer and rarer for us to just kind of sit and reflect and actually, do less. We're always trying to do more. We're always trying to cram everything in. We're always trying to multitask and do this. And so it's not easy. We're bombarded by all of these marketing efforts that tell us that what we have is not enough, what we're doing is not enough. And so we want to outperform. We're generally, high performing professionals. So we want to outdo what the expectation is. And so it's sort of a contrast. We're kind of saying, yes, we want to be high performers, but at the same time, we don't have to fill our schedules or fill our homes with clutter to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we take it from the possession side of things, I think that it can be really freeing to get rid of some of our possessions or to cut down on the different clutter that we have, even just the physical objects in our environment, in our vicinity. They have the capacity to complicate things for us. And instead of making our life easier, we're making our life more complicated, more filled with things that kind of take away. And it's an interesting thing when we go through and declutter. So I personally have actually experienced getting rid of quite a lot of things because a few years ago I was experiencing mold illness, biotoxin illness, and that I think came from exposure in several different places, including where I worked at in college. Actually, I worked in a water damaged building and did not know that that was very unsafe. But throughout the years, of course, we have our possessions, and my family certainly had their possessions as well. And so when we finally got to the root of what was going on for me, and one of the things years ago was, okay, this mold illness. So what do we do about that? And it was really life changing in good and bad ways, of course, to learn that I needed to pretty much get rid of everything that I owned and everything that my family owned as well, because of the contamination and the concerns there. So it was an exercise in minimalism, like hardcore minimalism,
Forced minimalism.
forced minimalism, because we moved and everyone thought that I was crazy. Everyone did not believe in what was happening. There were some people that, of course, had heard about it before, friends and family, and they were fully on board with this. But it was, okay, you're getting rid of pretty much everything. You are keeping a really expensive camera. You're keeping your laptop. Everything else is pretty much going. So we got rid of all of our furniture. And we ended up moving into our new house with hardly anything. So it was a clean slate. And in some ways it was incredibly freeing. And for me, of course, it worked wonders for me because I recovered very quickly and actually had the data to back this up, working with doctors and everything, but that's neither here nor there. It was worth it for me to do this, but it was one of those things where I got rid of all of the things that I had, and I learned a hard lesson of, do we really need what we think we need?
Yeah.
Do we need to have the things that we have purchased for convenience, some of the sentimental items, the things that are holding energy for us in our space? Of course, everything has its own inherent energy that we are bringing to us. There's meaning that we've associated with things. There's this need. And I think really what was so interesting is when I looked at all of the things that I had before that I no longer had anymore. When I purchased those over the years, accumulating these things, I really thought that I needed them. I really, really thought that they would make my life better in some way, more convenient, less complicated, more fulfilling, whatever it might be. And of course, there's things that we just want that we know we don't need, but we want them.
Yes.
And and so moving and taking, because it was not financially feasible for us to just duplicate our old life. So we needed to do it very slowly, very methodically. We needed to build up and get back some of the possessions that, yes, we really do need a couch, or we really do need a bed to sleep on, right? There's these things. And I had found since that time just how doable it is to live without or to live on less, from a perspective of, well, this doesn't fill the void or the need for me anymore because I don't have that void or that need. I don't have that line of thinking anymore. You know, all of the things that I committed myself to having, I don't need them anymore because I saw over the years that they actually didn't serve the purpose that I really thought that they would.
Yeah.
A perfect example for this is when I think about healthy, like the healthy lifestyle, and you embark on a wellness plan and you buy the active wear and you get the fancy equipment to put downstairs and make a gym, and you know, you do all of these things, and really you're feeling very motivated, but actually what you need to do is just probably be consistent with an at-home workout or a walk around the block every time, you know, every lunch break you have, and make that commitment. Like we're driven by these feelings.
Yeah.
And we're driven by, in many ways, these limiting beliefs, or for some people, these fears that come up for them, or even just the uncomfortable feeling of my life would be so much easier if I just had this.
Yeah.
And I think that that certainly has some weight with it, only in certain circumstances. For the vast majority, people are overspending or they're not being intentional enough about what they really bring into their home. Because one of the benefits specifically to possessions and clutter is I was able to clean my whole house in like 10 minutes. And like I even see now on all these different platforms, there's like cleaning videos and cleaning motivation and a day in my life, you know, let's clean my closet out. And there can be so much overwhelm and so much of like, I have to care for all of these items, and that takes time and energy and effort and sometimes money, right? Where we have people who are like, I have to do the laundry and I have 7 loads of laundry. Like when we moved into our new house, we had 2 loads of laundry and that was it in our entire household. I could do every single piece of clothing could be cleaned with 2 loads of laundry. In 1 hour, you're done. Versus I see some people who are very overwhelmed and they've created this whole online presence of let me get my life together and you watch, which is great for them, but they have so much stuff and it's like, how did they get here? And I think on that same note, how they got there was a lot of what I've talked about with the limiting beliefs and the feelings and the emotions and the need for let me get the solution right now and really believing that that's the solution. Yeah,
there's a lot there. A lot to unpack. See how I tried to, it didn't work.
A lot to unpack, but
not less to unpack. Exactly.
Back up and get rid of it.
So you talked about, you know, the minimalist mindset and really the benefit of adopting that when it comes to possessions. But as you alluded to at the onset, is it has this whole mindset can be applied not just to the things we have, the physical things that we own, the things that take up space within our homes or our offices, but also things that take up space within our schedules, within our days, you know, the things that we overload ourselves with. And there is something to be said about taking that same mindset that people apply to possessions and applying it to how we're living our life on a daily basis. I think about, you know, what that looks like in terms of at the workplace, you know, taking on assignments that you know that you probably don't have the capacity to do efficiently or effectively. It's volunteering for things. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for volunteering. There are a lot of important organizations, important causes that are fueled by volunteer efforts. But you look at, people who, have, they belong to different organizations. Maybe they're at their homeowners association. They get involved in so many different things, and it doesn't allow them the time to do kind of, time for themselves, to do, what they want to do. Now, kind of tied into that are some of the hobbies that people take on, and they're overcommitting themselves. And I know, I'll give you an example. I volunteer for a couple of organizations, and I've had to really take a hard look at the level to which I'm volunteering, because there are some organizations that, they're some that just, I'm on a lot of different committees, and it's very fulfilling. I have the opportunity to work with just amazing people, and I just love being involved in that. But I also have to look at the fact that, am I as effective as I can be, even in that volunteer capacity? It's one thing to say I volunteer on 6 different committees, but if you're not really doing a great job in any of those roles, then it would be better if you focused your efforts into just maybe 1 or 2 committees. So there are there are things that we get involved with that take up our time. I think about, when my wife and I, when we were raising our kids were quite young, I think they had normal, I'll call them normal childhoods, where, they had, different activities. But then we talk to parents who, and you brought it up earlier, is, they tell stories about how, oh yeah, I've got to take my 6-year-old to soccer, then we've got ballet, and then my 8-year-old has karate, and then they have French, and then and we're taking kids, and are we perhaps, setting a level of expectation where they always have to be busy, where they always have to be doing something, they have to excel at so many different things, and taking away that opportunity for them to just naturally grow and develop as children, with what's around them. And so I sort of think, we have to take a look at how we're spending our time, and why we feel the need to fill our schedule the way we do. I think, technology has certainly given us opportunities to always be busy, to always be doing things. And I think we need to take advantage of that, certainly to be more effective, to be more efficient, but also realize that by being more efficient, by being more effective, you're hopefully giving yourself more time to decompress, more time to relax and do things that you want to do, not just things that you feel like you're filling your schedule with. So that's kind of, in terms of, and we can go on and on about time, but it's really sort of a look at, what are all of the things that you're doing? What kind of meaning do they bring? What kind of joy do they bring to your life? And are you perhaps filling with quantity, and at the expense of filling with quantity at the expense of the quality that you could be spending in other areas?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of challenges that come with either having way too many possessions or not, maybe even way too many. I mean, we think about hoarding, and that's such an extreme example, but a lot of us are not hoarders. We do have a lot, and I think that we kind of have to approach it with these fresh eyes, because the challenges of having too many possessions or too many activities or experiences, like that jam-packed schedule, we miss out on some of the joy that we're meant to have, and that we even have access to when we're taking care of objects or we are running around with the kids. I know that there's several really big accounts on, let's say, LinkedIn, where they're sharing their day in the life as, let's say, a working mom, for instance. I have someone I follow, and she's
Sure.
constantly sharing about what it's like to be a working mom. And many times I read her posts and they really resonate with so many people. But at the same time, we have a level of control that we can kind of take back with this, because we're the ones who are saying, yes, sign my child up for the
Yeah.
4 activities Monday through Thursday, and then by Friday I'm losing my cool and I'm spending the whole weekend doing all of the things, meal prepping. It's like we've turned our lives into a production.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, and we're constantly trying to optimize. And even like for the possessions, for instance, there's that expression of like, you can't really organize clutter. It's not the organization that's the problem.
Mhm.
It's just that you have too much stuff. And I
Yeah.
think with the activities as well, for a lot of people, they have to take a really hard look at their lives and admit that, okay, yeah, I probably need to step back here and deal with some of the feelings or the discomfort I might have when I do say no about this. The fear of missing out, or the fear of, well, if my child doesn't do soccer and ballet, they're not going to have a leg up when it gets to college time, like
Yeah.
whatever it is. We need to take a step back and swallow that pill of, okay, let's go ahead and realize that we do have the challenges are outweighing the
Yeah.
joys that we're meant to have.
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned, the challenges of having that full schedule, but then from a possession standpoint, um, I can think of countless times where I've gone out and purchased, some, electronic gizmo or gadget. And, it's supposed to do amazing things. Maybe it's like a camera or some, again. And then I realized that in order to properly use it, there's like a manual that's 200 pages long. There's so many different things on how to actually properly operate it. And so there have been times where I've gotten gifts from people, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to get to that later, because I acknowledge that it's going to take a lot of time to even learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And so you think, I'll give one example. My brother, he plays video games. My son does as well. They're very much into video games, and he brought one over one day, and he said, "Hey, let's play this game." And the complexity of these video games today, I don't have, in order, if I bought that and I really wanted to get proficient and good at playing this video game, the controller, I mean, you've seen there's so much that you would have to learn. And I think about, yes, it'd be fun to play, it's exciting, but the amount of time, resources to learn it, and then to be good at it to a point where you get a level of satisfaction in playing that, it's just, is that worth it? It is having that, game system, or having that, computer or camera or whatever, really worth the time. What is that doing? And I think sometimes, again, we get mesmerized by all of the marketing around telling us that we have to have this thing. And at the end of the day, these possessions end up dictating how we're spending our time, and instead of enhancing our life, they end up being more of a burden.
Yes. And the truth is, there are people who are paid massive amounts of money to capitalize on insecurities.
Yeah.
And this is not just by chance that this has happened, especially in our society and the lives that we lead now. We're up against quite a lot. and millions or billions of dollars with these industries who are trying to convince us that yes, we do in fact need this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say some of the benefits of adopting a more minimalist mindset from work or at home, like just in our life? What are some of the benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I think and we've kind of already touched on it to some degree, is when it comes to both activities and possessions, by adopting this minimalist mindset, by kind of reducing the clutter in our schedules and in our homes, it gives us more control. It gives us more control over how we spend our time, what we focus on, how we do what we do. And also kind of getting back to what one of the things that you said earlier is the fact that it forces us to really analyze, to understand why we commit to things, why we bought things, why we buy things in general. Are we trying to fill that void? Is there a hope that this new gadget will bring us the happiness that we thought, that's missing in our life? Will volunteering for that position give me more, it'll be more fulfilling or introduce me to new people? It forces us to look at the why, and in doing so, it kind of it gives us that ability to sort of process what may be uncomfortable for us. We come to terms with, well, the reason why I bought that exercise bike is because I have a negative self-image about myself, or things like that, and it there's kind of that you look inward, you come to terms with why you have that, why you've done that, and it really helps you understand, well, is that, is doing this, is filling my schedule, is buying this thing going to help me achieve the goals that I'm looking for? And so by reducing the clutter, by reducing those objects, by reducing the things on your calendar, it can dramatically reduce the stress that you have because of all the expectations you built in your head around those items and around those things. Certainly from a financial standpoint, if you're not buying all that stuff, and if you're not spending your time on all these different hobbies and things, it'll be an improvement on your finances, which will, for many people, a significant reduction in stress. By having, certain things, it allows you to be more focused. It allows you to be more productive. You talked about, only, having 2 loads of laundry. If there are things, if you only have a handful of things, at your disposal within your home, that there are certain things you can and can't do, and it gives you it gives you clarity on what am I going to do today? Well, I've got this. If you walked into a room and it was full of toys, and you said, it was like, what do you want to play with? You would look around. It's like, I don't know. But if you walked into a room and there was one ball, you immediately say, I'm playing ball today. And certainly we want choice. We want the ability to do different things. We don't want the monotony of life, but at the same time, having that minimalist mindset helps us be more focused, and that gives us that freedom, that mindful, that contentment, if you will, and that could help with your overall health. So,
and I know
lots of benefits.
Yeah, lots of benefits. And I know that what you are saying is so true, because I have experienced it myself when it comes around the time for Christmas. I will never forget. We had a very, very big Christmas one year, and my stepdaughter, I think it was either later that day or the following day, so the day after Christmas, and she comes downstairs and she's like, what can I do? I'm bored. What can I play with? I'm bored. And it was that moment that was just so not just earth shattering for me. I was like, you're bored? Like, you just had this amazing Christmas and you don't have, like, what is, and so for us, that was definitely more like more fuel to the fire for living a minimalist lifestyle, because we saw firsthand, wow, we're not doing anybody any favors with having all of this stuff. We need to pare it down. We need to, and I really do think that it has helped her own focus as well. So I see it very clearly with children, and in terms of even just one of the benefits that you had said is so important nowadays with families, the financial aspect.
Yeah.
So there are so many families that say, like a mom, for instance, wanting to cut back on her work hours and wanting to do some other things, or maybe some housekeeping to make it easier. I experienced this myself firsthand when I started my own business. I wanted to be able to have some boundaries around stopping the need for constant work. So my schedule is extremely flexible, and there are things that, but compared to some of the things that friends may have or other people may have, it's like, well, we don't have that. We don't need that. We don't need the new car. We have the same car that we've had, and we paid for it in cash. And that means that I don't owe a single person a dime on this vehicle. And that gives me immense amounts of freedom. And it's just like those little tiny things add up all the time, where I am able, because I paid off $60,000 worth of student loans, I was able to do a drastic career change, and it didn't impact us financially where that wasn't possible. I am able to have a very flexible career along with my husband, because he's also a business owner. And so it's like, okay, we're able to create this lifestyle that brings us so much more joy than the possessions that we have. And even just the overscheduling as well, because we're very cognizant of how much we put on our plate, because it's no good for anyone when all of the challenges are mounting compared to the benefits of doing the thing. So I know we said, like, running around with the kids and taking them to all these things. If you, like, your kids want time with you and they want quality time, just like what you said, that quality over the quantity too. So I really like what you've touched on there. In terms of just action steps for somebody. So go.
So how do we do this? And we recognize that it for a lot of people, it's not going to be easy, because you've kind of spent your whole life building up this idea that whether you're living your life to gain possessions or to fill your schedule so that you're always busy. It's kind of hard to say goodbye to some of that. But I think one of the things, you can go through a process where you kind of look, and we'll take I think there are a lot of books and podcasts about how to declutter your home. So I want to focus on your schedule, and go through the commitments that you have. What is taking up time within your day? Is it are you working a lot of extra hours at work because your workload is too high, you've accepted too many tasks? Are you are you volunteering at too many areas? Are you you taking yoga and kickboxing and cooking classes? And you start looking at all the areas that you're filling your schedule with, and just ask yourself, what, and similar to what you do with the clutter in your home, is you say, what kind of joy, what is this bringing to me, and how is it helping me achieve, help me keep me on that path that I want to be in, so I can achieve the goals I'm looking for. And certainly there are going to be things that you do simply to enhance your life, they're enjoyable. And those are very important. But when you start looking at, are you taking on the responsibility of things like volunteer committees that are taking up too much time? There's only, it's going to sound like a cliche, there are only 24 hours in a day, right? And so you got to sleep. And sleep. That's a whole other podcast we need to talk about. But rest and well-being. But so there are only so many waking hours where you can do things, and it's finite. You can't just say that I'm going to fill my day with all this stuff. And so where can you have the biggest impact to your own life and to your family and the people around you? And as you start going through that, you can prioritize that list. I'm an engineer, so I'd make a spreadsheet. You can make a spreadsheet and then see what's at the bottom of that spreadsheet. What are things that you can quit doing? Mm-hmm. And as you look at those things, you're going to, there's going to be pain involved. Maybe it's a class you really like, or maybe it's a volunteer position where you've got a lot of friends there. But you've got to kind of make that break. And what that will give you is it'll give you more flexibility and space in your free time, and give you that time to breathe. It'll give you that time to relax and not be so caught up. Because I've been there before where I feel like I've got a to-do list that's a mile long, and half of it are things that I brought on myself because I accepted tasks that I didn't have to accept, but I took them on. And so it's not easy. But at the same time, it's something that you can go through that process, prioritize, make the list, make the spreadsheet, and then see what you can drop off that spreadsheet. And maybe you're going to drop half the things off, and then find, hey, I've got all of this free time, and that's great. And maybe you can kind of work a couple of things back in. But as long as you find yourself in a position where you're comfortable, you don't feel overwhelmed, you don't feel stressed out, you don't feel burdened or burned out because of all of these things. So I think that's kind of a way, not easy, but it's a process for you to cut back on things.
Yes, because busy is not a badge of honor. And we need to stop placing emphasis on just being so busy all the time, creating that white space. And when we have that white space in our schedules and we look around and our house is very mentally calm for us, physically very nice, we are able to be more creative and to come up with these other avenues of joy for ourselves. We find new hobbies, we find new meaning, we find purpose and different things. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So my question for everybody today is, what can you let go of?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, this was fun. I really enjoyed talking through some of these with the possessions versus like the scheduling. I think that's a really important thing for people to consider, both aspects in their life at work and at home.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. See you next time.
We will see you next time.